These are the intended learning outcomes of the today's sessions. What are the types of pay management? What are the steps of pay management process? What is job evaluation? Basically, we move to the job evaluation in the today's session. The principles needed to follow in the formulating, implementing, and program of job evaluation. What are the steps of job evaluation process? What methods can use for job evaluation? There are two types of methods, qualitative method and quantitative methods. Under each qualitative and quantitative methods, there are two techniques under the qualitative, and there are two techniques under the quantitative techniques. We will be discuss these job evaluation techniques basically in today's session. Before moving to the session, this is about the pay management. Pay management is about the designing, implementation, and maintenance of base pay system, pay procedures, processes, practices, and procedures, which aims to meet the needs of both organization and stakeholders. Basically, the pay, when we considering about the basic relationship between employer and employee, regarding pay is a major expenditure for the employer, as well as pay or salary or wages and salaries or incentives and other welfare facilities are the major income for the employees. Therefore, they are both parties are try to manage as the beneficial way. When we considering about the employer, they are trying to minimize their expenditures. It means they are trying to pay minimum wages and salaries. On the other party, employees, their wages are the major income for them. Therefore, they try to increase or maximize their earnings. As a HR manager or human resource management, we need to satisfy these two contradictory parties, employees and employers. Therefore, we need to have proper processes, practices, and procedures to satisfy these both stakeholders, employer, basic stakeholders, employer and employee. Sometimes there may be other stakeholders like trade union and society, government, like this. This is the pay management process. There are 5 steps. The first step is job evaluation, then pay survey, job pricing, then adjustment of individual pays, and finally monitor and update the pay system. As we discussed in our last session, pay or compensation management need to establish fair, need to treat fairly for each parties. For that, there is a equity issue in pay management. Under the equity issue, there are 4 types of equities. Basically 2 types of equity, absolute equity and relative equity. Under the absolute equity, we discuss our salary, the organization salary need to enough fulfill our employees cover basic expenditure. That means basic satisfy their basic needs and wants. Then the relative equity, there are two types of relative equity. It is internal and external equity. Under the internal equity, the pay should be equal or match with the relative worth of the jobs. Therefore, within the organization, internally, we need to establish pay system that is equal to the relative worth of the jobs. Equal pay for equal jobs, unequal pay for unequal jobs, but inequality of pays should be equal to the inequality of the jobs. That is the internal equity. For that, we need to identify the relative importance or relative worth of each jobs within the organization. For that, we need to proceed job evaluation. Then when we move to the external equity, that is when we move to the external equity, our as an organization, we have a set of jobs, and our competitors and the other organizations have, when considering our employees, they have another opportunities in other organizations. They are always comparing our package or benefits, wages and salaries with their alternatives. That means they can work for other organizations as well. Then they always compare these two options. They are working with our organization or they are working with other organization. These two opportunities they have. Therefore, they always compare these two opportunities. If we pay to them as their satisfactory level, they will retain with our organization. If our pay system is unsatisfactory for our employees, they will leave the organization and join other competitive organization. Therefore, we need to compare these alternatives with our remuneration package. For that, we need to conduct a survey with the other organization as well. That's called pay survey. Then the third step is job pricing. Considering both the internal value and the external value of the each jobs, we need to identify how much we need to pay for our each and every jobs. That's called that identification part called job pricing. Then sometimes there are some small differences between the employees. Up to third step, we always considering about the jobs, not about the individual, not about the employee. It is all about the organization. But in the adjustment of individual pays, we need to consider some individual factors. They have higher education qualification, they have some high capacities, they have some capabilities, they have some unique advantages to the organization. Likewise, there are some individual factors. We need to pay for some type of individual factors. That is called individual adjustment of individual pays. Then the finally monitor and update the pay system. We'll discuss one by one in the pay management. Firstly, today we try to discuss about the evaluation. In Sinhala, රැකියා ඇගයීම. මේ දක්වා කතා කරපු දේවල් පොඩි සාරාංශයක් කවුතින් අපි දැන් ඉන්නේ ප්‍රතිදාන කළමනාකරණය නැත්නම් compensation management වල ප්‍රධාන අංග තුනක් pay, base pay, wages and salaries කියන්නේ පළවෙනි component එක. දෙවෙනි component එක incentives, third component එක welfare facilities. මේ component තුනෙන් අපි ඉස්සෙල්ලාම සලකා බලන්නේ base pay නැත්නම් wages and salaries. අපි කොහොමද wages and salaries එක එක හැකියාවන් සඳහා කොටසක් ගෙවිය යුතුද කියන ප්‍රමාණය තීරණය කිරීමේ ක්‍රියාවලිය තමයි අපි පළවෙනියටම ඉන්නේ. ඉන් අනතුරුව අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා කොහොමද welfare facilities තීරණය කරන්නේ, කොහොමද incentives තීරණය කරන්නේ කියන එක ගැන කතා කරන්න ඊළඟ session වලදී. අද බේසික්ම කතා කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ කොහොමද මේ base pay system එකක් establish කරන්නේ, process එකක්, procedure එකක්, organization එක කොහොමද implement කරන්න කියන part එක. ඒකෙදී ප්‍රධාන වශයෙන්ම අපි base pay system එකේ fairness එක, සාධාරණත්වය නැත්නම් equity එක establish කරන්න ඕන. තහවුරු කරන්න ඕන. ඒ සාධාරණත්වය තහවුරු කිරීම වෙනුවෙන් අපි පළවෙනි ස්ටෙප් දෙකම කැප කරනවා. ඒක තමයි job evaluation. ඒක internal equity. අභ්‍යන්තර සාධාරණත්වය තහවුරු කරන්න. රැකියාවන් අතර පවතින සාපේක්ෂ වටිනාකමට සමානුපාතිකව ගෙවීම් සමානුපාතික විය යුතුයි. වැඩි වටිනාකමක් සහිත රැකියාවන් සඳහා වැඩි ගෙවීමකොත් අඩු වටිනාකමක් සහිත රැකියාවන් සඳහා අඩු ගෙවීමකොත් ගෙවීම් අතර විෂමතාවය රැකියාවන් අතර පවතින වැදගත්කම විෂමතාවයට සමාන වන පරිදි නිර්මාණය කිරීම අභ්‍යන්තර සාධාරණත්වයෙන් අදහස් වෙනවා. අභ්‍යන්තර සාධාරණත්වය තහවුරු කිරීම උදෙසා අපිට රැකියාවන් අතර පවතින සාපේක්ෂ වැදගත්කම හඳුනා ගැනීමට අවශ්‍යයි. මේ සාපේක්ෂ වැදගත්කම හඳුනා ගැනීම සඳහා රැකියාවන් ඇගයීම කියන පළවෙනි ස්ටෙප් එක පියවර අනුගමනය කරන්න සිද්ධ වෙනවා. මේ පළවෙනි පියවර අපි හඳුන්වනවා job evaluation එහෙම නැත්නම් රැකියා ඇගයීම කියලා. අද පාඩම තුල මූලික වශයෙන් අවධානය යොමු කරන්නේ රැකියා ඇගයීම කියන එක කොහොමද කරන්නේ? ඒක කරන්න පාවිච්චි කරන්න පුළුවන් ක්‍රමවේදයක් තියෙනවා. මොනවද ඒවයි තියෙනවද? පාඩු මොනවද? ඒක භාවිත කරන්න පුළුවන් මොන වගේ අවස්ථාවන් වලදීද කියන එක ගැඹුරින් අධ්‍යයනය කරන්න තමයි අද දවසේ බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ. දෙවෙනි ස්ටෙප් එක වෙන්නේ pay survey එක. ගෙවීම් සමීක්ෂණ මේක අදාළ වෙන්නේ ආයතනික අභ්‍යන්තර පරිසරයට නෙවෙයි. ආයතනයෙන් පරිබාහිරව අපේ ආයතනයේ යම් කිසි රැකියාවක නිරත වෙන පුද්ගලයෙකුට අපේ ආයතනයේ රැකියාවක නිරත වීම හැරුණුකොට පවතින වෙනත් විකල්පයන් සඳහා ගියොත් ඒ අයගේ ගෙවීම් නැත්නම් ඒ අයගේ ඉපොයි මොන වගේ මට්ටමකද තරංගකාරී පරිසරයක කියන හඳුනා ගන්න අවශ්‍යයි. ඒකට අපි කියනවා pay survey එකක් කියලා. ගෙවීම් සමීක්ෂණයක් කරනවා. අපේ ආයතනයේ මැෂින් ඔපරේටර් කෙනෙක් වැඩ කරනවා. තරංගකාරී ආයතනයේ තුල තරංගකාරී ආයතන තුල මැෂින් ඔපරේටර් කියන රැකියාව පවතිනවා. අපේ ආයතනයේ මැෂින් ඔපරේටර් කෙනෙක් අපේ ආයතනයේ රැකියාව හැර දාලා ගිහිල්ලා වෙනත් තරංගකාරී ආයතනයක මැෂින් ඔපරේටර් කෙනෙක් විදිහට රැකියාව කරන්නට කටයුතු කරොත් ඒ තුලින් ඉපිය හැකි ආදායම් කොපමණද කියන එක අපි දැනගෙන සිටිය යුතු වෙනවා. ඒ සඳහා අපි කියනවා pay survey එකක් කරනවා. ඊට පස්සේ අපි තුල තියෙන දැන් අපි එකතු කරලා තිනවා අභ්‍යන්තර රැකියාව යම් කිසි රැකියාවකට අදාළව අභ්‍යන්තර වටිනාකම සහ එම රැකියාවට අදාළ බාහිර වටිනාකම. මේ දෙක අතර තුලනයක් ඇති වෙන ආකාරයට මැච් වෙන විදිහට අපේ රැකියාවට සඳහා ආයතනය තුලින් මිලක් නියම කරනවා. ඒක තුන්වෙනි ස්ටෙප් එක, තුන්වෙනි පියවර ගෙවීම් කළමනාකරණ ක්‍රියාවලිය. ඒකට අපි කියනවා job pricing නැත්නම් රැකියා මිලනය කියලා. ඊට පස්සේ මේ පියවරයන් තුනේදීම අපි සලකා බැලුවේ රැකියාව පිළිබඳව. task, duties and responsibilities. නැත්නම් රැකියාවේ ස්වභාවය පිළිබඳව. කිසිම අවස්ථාවක මේ job evaluation, pay survey, job pricing කියන steps වලදී කිසිම ආකාරයකින් අපි සලකා බැලුවේ නැහැ. රැකියාව දරන්න නැත්නම් රැකියාව සිදු කරන රැකියාව කටයුතු රාජකාරියකින් ඉටු කරන පුද්ගලයා සතුව තිබිය යුතු සතුව තියෙන සුවිශේෂී ගති ලක්ෂණ, සුවිශේෂී හැකියාවන්, සුවිශේෂී ධාරිතාවය. ඒ ධාරිතාවයන් පවතින සේවකයන් අපි තුල රඳවා ගැනීම අපිට තරමකාරී වාසි ලබා ගන්නට හැකියාවක් පවතින. අපි කියන comparative advantages එකක් ගන්න පුළුවන්කමක් තියෙනවා. ඒ වගේ සුවිශේෂී පුද්ගලයන් ඉන්නවා. එහෙම පුද්ගලයන් ඉන්නවා නම් ඒ අයට යම් කිසි ගෙවීම් පද්ධතිය තුළින් යම් කිසි සුවිශේෂත්වයක් දැක්විය යුතුයි. නමුත් මේ ඉහතින් සඳහන් කරපු කිසිම පියවරකදී ඒ පිළිබඳ සුවිශේෂී අවධානයක් යොමු නොවන නිසා අත්දැකීම් පළපුරුද්ද හැකියාව ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ ධාරිතාවයන් පිළිබඳව සලකා බලලා අදාළ සුවිශේෂී හැකියාවන් පවතින පුද්ගලයන් සඳහා යම් කිසි ගෙවීම් තුළ සුවිශේෂීතාවයක් ඇති කිරීම අපි හතරවෙනි ස්ටෙප් එක විදිහට අඳුරගන්නවා. Adjustment of individual pays. මේ මොන ආකාරයට සාධාරණ සහ හොඳ ගෙවීම් පද්ධතියක් නිර්මාණය කරත් පරිසරයේ පවතින තත්ත්වයන් වෙනස් වීමත් එක්ක අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම ගෙවීම් පද්ධතිය අප්ඩේට් වෙන්න ඕන. වෙනස් විය යුතුයි. යාවත් කාලින විය යුතුයි. ඒ සඳහා අන්තිම ස්ටෙප් එක අපි නිරන්තරයෙන්ම පවත්වා ගන්න ඕනේ. ඒකට අපි කියන monitor and update the pay system කියලා. අපි එකිනෙක කතා කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. පළවෙනි එක job evaluation. The first step of the pay management process is called job evaluation. What is job evaluation? It is a systematic process of determining the relative worth. Very important keyword is in your definition, it is relative worth of jobs which are available within an organization. It is a systematic process. When you are defining job, what is job evaluation? It is some students misunderstood. Job evaluation is a part of performance evaluation. That is totally or completely wrong. That is not going under the performance evaluation. Job evaluation is completely different from the performance evaluation. Job evaluation, it is regarding the compensation management. It is not the individual or people or performance evaluation. It is evaluating the jobs, not the person. Jobs mean the part of organizational work. We divide all the task, duties, and responsibilities, organizational work unit into subunits. That subunits can be identified as the jobs. But some work units are more important than the other units. These all work units, all jobs are important. There is no argument. There is no unimportant or not important jobs. There is no. Each and every jobs are important for the organization. There is no argument about that. But when we compare each jobs, the significance or importance of the jobs are different than the other jobs. This significance may not be completely equal to other jobs. Therefore, we need to identify what jobs are very important, what jobs are important, what jobs are less important to the organizational success. It is a formal and systematic comparison of jobs to determine the worth. That's called relative worth. Sapeksha වැදගත්කම of one jobs relative to other jobs. Relative worth of employee is not evaluated in the job evaluation. This is very important. Relative worth of employees is not evaluated. that is evaluated under the performance evaluation. How they perform their jobs, that is considering under the performance evaluation, not in the job evaluation. It aims to developing a base pay system that is fair internally. I emphasized previously the job basic purpose or main purpose of job evaluation is to establish internal equity or fairness of the internal fairness in internally. Job evaluation is needed to ensure internal equity. Job evaluation is subjective. It needs to be performed by group of experts. Subjective means that decision how much this job is important for the job for the organization is subjective. Cannot quantify. It's very difficult to quantify. This job is important 20% for the entire organization. This job is important 30% of the organization for the organization. This job is important 100% for the organization. That is very difficult to identify the relative worth of jobs, but it is needed to establish their pay system. That subjective decisions can be correctly done with the group of experts. That means panel of experts. That is called the job evaluation committee. Then job evaluation principles. Principles mean basic guidelines need to follow when you are engaging something. In here, job evaluation principles, it is the basic principles or guidelines need to follow when you are formulating and implementing program for the job evaluation. The first one is evaluation about the jobs, not about the job holder or employee. I emphasize that job evaluation, it is not about the performance evaluation. Completely different from performance evaluation. Performance evaluation is about the job holder characteristics, traits, results, and behaviors about the job holder. But job evaluation, it is about the job, task duties, responsibilities regarding the particular job, not about the job holder. Evaluation about job, not about the job holder. That is the first principle. When you are evaluating any job, you need to consider only the job, not about the job holder. The second principle, a sufficient number of factors should be decided to use for job evaluation. When you are job evaluation, when you are doing job evaluation, you are going to identify the relative worth of the job. How this job is relatively important or not important. How you can identify. You need to consider several factors. Sometimes contribution or responsibility. Some jobs are highly responsible for the organization's success. Some jobs are less responsible for the organization profit. Some jobs are highly responsible for the human, that means employees of the job. Some organizations are less responsible about the human. Some jobs are highly responsible about the organization other resources, but some jobs are less, not too much responsible about the organizational resources. Likewise, there is a differences between when we are considering some factors. There are differences among jobs. Therefore, we need to identify what factors we are going to consider and what factors we are not going to consider when we are identifying the relative worth of the jobs. Some jobs are important because of one factor. Some jobs are important because of several factors. When we are evaluating jobs, if we miss one important factor, our identified relative worth is totally or completely wrong. Therefore, we need to identify carefully what are the factors need to consider when we are identifying relative worth of the jobs, as well as the sufficient number of factors need to consider when we are decide the relative worth of the job. That is the second principle. The first one is it is about job, not about the job holder. Second principle, the sufficient number of factors need to be considered. Use. Third principle, factors which are considered for evaluation must be possible to define and describe clearly. The second one and third one is about the factors. Some factors, in my previous example, the responsible of the jobs, responsible of the duty. It is very abstract concept, but the management or organizational top management can identify, can clearly define what they mean by the responsibility. If we have no clear idea about the responsibility, we cannot properly evaluate our jobs. Therefore, when we are using any factor for job evaluation, it must be possible to define and describe clearly. What do you mean by responsibility? How they identify the level of responsibility regarding the particular type of jobs. As my example, the responsibility. Responsibility is this. There should be a clear definition for the responsibility. As well as when we are considering about each and every jobs, how they identify the level of responsibility regarding the particular job. Like machine operator, how you identify the responsibilities of the job of machine operator, how you identify the job of human resource manager, how you identify the responsibility of the financial manager. That is which level, that is in which level. It means when we are considering about the all the factors about responsibility, human resource managers responsibility is in a higher level because of these reasons. If we have factors, it is not enough, then that needs to be clearly defined and described. Otherwise, we cannot operationalize, we cannot use to identify relative worth of the job. Then the fourth principle, the method of job evaluation and its purpose should be communicated clearly and sufficiently. Job evaluation, when we are doing job evaluation, all the related parties contribution support is must. Otherwise, we cannot succeed our job evaluation. Therefore, we need to communicate why we are doing job evaluation. That is pay, that is the purpose of implementation of proper pay system. Likewise, purpose should be communicated clearly. Otherwise, the employees may fear and other parties may not actively engage to the job evaluation. Therefore, we need to communicate. Proper communication is must for the job evaluation. The fifth one, if an opportunity is given to employees to discuss about the job evaluation, their maximum support is to be secured. Sometimes we can identify the relative worth of jobs by discussing the the related employees, sometimes managers or supervisors like this. But we need to be careful. We are not going to discuss anything about the pay or wages and salaries. It is about when we are going to discuss about the relative worth of the jobs, that is only, not about the pay or not about the other things, because when we are this is linked with the pay, they may their purpose may be different. If they identify this job is if they highlighted this job is highly important, they may can they may earn more than their salary, like jealousy. If their information may be wrong. Therefore, if an opportunity is given to employees to discuss about the job evaluation, their maximum support is to be secured. The sixth one, it is better to have several experts and managers involved in job evaluation. We discussed earlier, it is called job evaluation committee, because job evaluation, we are going to decide the relative worth of the job. The decision is subjective, therefore, it is better to have several experts, not only one person. It is essential, last one, it is essential to have job analysis information before doing the job evaluation. Job analysis is one of other key HRM functions. You already know about that. There are two main documents we create under the job analysis, that is job description and job specifications. These both documents, these both information can be used in job evaluation. Without having job analysis information, JD and JS, it is very difficult to proceed job evaluation. That is the primary function is job analysis. Then we can do the job evaluation. This job evaluation uh, can be easily done with the job analysis information. Otherwise, it is very difficult to process. Then we are in we are already in a process that is called pay management process. The first step of pay management, it is job evaluation. The second is in the job evaluation, there is a process that is called job evaluation process. There are 5 steps. The first one is to appoint committee for the job evaluation. The second step, to examine job analysis information. Third one, to decide methods of job evaluation. Fourth one, to evaluate. The fifth one, to rank jobs. We'll discuss one by one. The first one is appoint committee for job evaluation. That committee, our job evaluation decision is subjective. Therefore, it is better to have several experts. sorry, it is better to have several experts. That is called job evaluation committee. Uh, if we use one expert, their individual decisions of it may not be right to our job evaluation process. The first one, there are several persons we can be we can appoint as a job evaluation committee, like head of the human resource department, especially from the rewards management or compensation management, who have deep understanding about the compensation management, or representing top management. Yeah, it can be incorporated CEO or general manager. Sometimes there are several functions in the organization. Line uh, line managers, or one or two line managers, or an employee's representative. Sometimes if there is several employees, we can use uh, some employees as well with the expert knowledge. We can appoint committee for the job evaluation. Then the second step, to examine job analysis information. With the job analysis information, we are going to identify, now we are trying to identify the relative worth of the job. For that, there is several factors need to consider, like responsibility or nature of the jobs, or risk level of the task duties and responsibilities. Likewise, there are several factors. Relating to these factors, we can consider job analysis. Then we can decide methods for job evaluation as a third step. There are several methods we can use to evaluate our jobs. These are the, we can categorize job evaluation methods under two categories: qualitative methods and quantitative methods. In here, qualitative methods and quantitative methods. Qualitative method is like they are not using numeric value for the relative worth of the job, but the quantitative methods, their results presented by the numeric value that represent the relative worth of the jobs. Don't misunderstand the qualitative methods. Some qualitative methods are also use numbers, but that numbers is not represent the relative worth of the jobs. Relative worth of the jobs. But when we are considering about quantitative methods, the relative, they are using numbers. That numbers represent the relative worth of the jobs. Don't misunderstand qualitative and quantitative method. Qualitative method is use numbers, and qualitative method is not using numbers, and quantitative method is using numbers. That is wrong. Qualitative and quantitative methods, both methods may be used numbers. When we are using numbers in the qualitative methods, that numbers not represent the value, relative worth of the job. That number may not represent the value. But quantitative methods, the number, they are using numbers, that numbers also represent the relative worth of the jobs. The number represent value. As example, in your rank is a number, but that rank is not represent the value. As example, you are the district first in your A-level examination. Is that number represent your value? Not. Your rank is not representing your value, because number one is less. When we are considering about the numeric values, number one is less than the number two. But in your rank, number one is with a high value, and number two is less value. That numbers not representing the value, but therefore your rank is not representing. We can identify as a qualitative method, not a quantitative method. In here also, there are qualitative methods and quantitative methods. How you can differentiate these two? Be careful. Qualitative methods use or sometimes use numbers, sometimes may not be used numbers. Numbers are not essential for the qualitative. But quantitative numbers, numeric analytics are very important part, significant part. They play very important role in the job evaluation. But qualitative methods, numbers may not play a significant role. Qualitative method, under the qualitative methods, there are two techniques: job ranking and job grading or classification. Quantitative methods, factor comparison methods, and the point system. There are four. Altogether, we have four options. When we are going to job evaluation, there are four methods we can use to identify relative worth of the jobs. It may be qualitative or quantitative. The first method is job ranking method. In two key terms in our topics, job ranking. Rank, you already have some experience with the rank, but this remember that this rank is not represent the value. Therefore, this is coming under the qualitative methods, not the quantitative methods. In here, we are using numbers, but that numbers are not representing the value. Jobs are ranked in job ranking methods. Jobs are ranked from most important to the least important according to the degree of relative contribution given by the each jobs to achieve organizational success. Jobs are ranked from most important to the least important. In here, we can identify organization as a set of jobs. Each and every jobs need to organize in order based on the relative worth of the jobs. Some jobs are relatively high important, most important, and some other jobs are less important. We need to identify the relative worth of the jobs. Some jobs are most important. What are the most important jobs, and what are the moderately important jobs, and what are the least important jobs? Jobs are put in order to importance by considering general factors such as education needed to perform duties, experience needed, number of duties and the nature of duties. Likewise, general factors. By considering these factors, some jobs are needed high level of education to perform their duties. That type of jobs are highly important, most important. Experience needed. Some jobs are needed more experience. Without more experience, that jobs cannot perform. The type of jobs are most important than the other jobs. Number of duties and the nature of jobs. Nature of the duties. Some jobs are perform more duties, but its duties are less important. Some jobs are performing less number of duties, but that limited number of duties are highly contributed to the organizational final output success. Therefore, the number of duties as well as the nature of duties need to be considered when we are evaluating jobs. In here, factors are not examined separately but are examined as a whole based on more subjective judgment. Job evaluation is a subjective judgment. That is why we suggest, as a principle, need to conduct by several experts, panel of experts. There are two techniques under this method, that is the general ranking method and the paired comparison. These both techniques are under the job ranking methods. Please be careful where you are in. We are in the compensation management. Under the compensation, there are three components: base pay, incentives, and the welfare. Among these three components, we are in base pay. Under the base pay management system. Under the pay management, there is a process. There are 5 steps. The first step is job evaluation. We are in the first step of pay management process. Under the job evaluation, there is a process. Under the job evaluation, there is a process. This is the process. To appoint committees for the job evaluation. Then the second step, to examine job analysis information. The third step, to decide methods for job evaluation. Now we are in third step of the job evaluation process. It's very complicated because there are several methods and several techniques and several processes in the compensation management. If you can develop your mind map, it is very easy to remember where you are in and how to connect these each and every concepts and processes to the compensation management. Now we are in the third step of job evaluation process, that is coming under the pay management. First step of pay management process. Pay management, it is the first component of the compensation management. There are two types of job evaluation methods: qualitative methods and quantitative methods. There are 4 methods and 2 types of methods. First one is job ranking methods. We are in job ranking method. Under the job ranking methods, there are 2 techniques: general ranking and paired comparison. Under the general ranking methods, job evaluator is provided job description and job specifications relevant to all jobs which are to be evaluated under these techniques. It means we already appoint several experts, panel panel of experts, that's called job evaluation committee. We circulate all the relevant information we are going to be evaluated under this table. After distributing all the relevant information, that means job analysis information to all the jobs, relating to all the jobs, then we are going to evaluate. In the evaluation, placing jobs from most value to least value is done by considering general factors like education, experience, number of duties, and the nature of duties. Each and every evaluator, each and every member of the panel, expert panel, they are independently evaluate, considering these all factors generally: education, experience, number of duties, and the nature of duties. Likewise, generally, they are considering all the factors. Each evaluator independently rank done by all the evaluators are compared considering these factors. Then we have several experts. There may be some differences among the one expert from other experts. Therefore, we need to calculate average of ranking. When we are calculate average rank, we can use that average rank as a final solution to arrange our jobs in order to the relative worth of the jobs. What jobs is most important and what jobs is less important. Likewise, we can identify by using average rank of all the evaluators. This is the example for general ranking techniques. There are several jobs. I think there are 9 jobs: manager, supervisor, cashier, PM, van salesman, counter salesman, clerk, bicycle salesman, and assistant manager. Likewise, there is a small organization, buying and selling organization. There is a 3 evaluators in our group of experts. We appoint these 3 group of experts and we provide all the relevant information, job analysis information, to all these 3 evaluators. Then they can independently rank these jobs: manager, supervisor, cashier, PM, van salesman, and counter salesman, clerk, bicycle salesman, and assistant manager. Then we can collect individual ranks to calculate our average rank. The first evaluator is rank. Manager is the most important rank. The second, assistant manager. Third, supervisor. Fourth, cashier. Fifth, clerk. Sixth, van salesman. 7, bicycle salesman. 8, count salesman. And the last, least important job is PM. Be careful, this is not about the person. This is only about the jobs. The job of manager, the job of PM, the job of van salesman, not about the employee or employee performance. The second evaluation, independent evaluation, is he also, the evaluator 2, is also identify manager is the most important, assistant manager is the second important, a supervisor is the third important. The fourth is different than the first evaluator. Clerk is the fourth important, and The cashier is the fifth important. Likewise, van salesman is a 6, bicycle salesman is a 7, counter salesman is the 8, and peer is the 9. Important job. Then the evaluator 3 is answered. Manager is the most important, second important assistant manager, third important supervisor, and the fourth important job is clerk, and fifth important is cashier. Sixth one is bicycle salesman, seventh one is van salesman, and eighth one is counter salesman, nine the peer. Likewise, we have complete answers from different evaluators, individual independent answers rank from the three different evaluators. Then we can calculate average rank. It means when we're considering about the job of manager, rank 1, 1, 1, the total rank is 3 divided by 3 because there is 3 evaluators. The second job is the supervisor, 3 plus 3 plus 3, 9 divided by 3 because of there are 3 evaluators. The answer is 3. Average rank is 3. Then cashier, 4 plus 5 plus 5 divided by 3. Answer is 4.6. PN, 9 plus 9 plus 9 divided by 3. Answer is 9. 6 plus 6 plus 7 divided by 3. Answer is 6.3. 8 plus 8 plus 8 divided by 3. Answer is 8. I think very clear. By calculating average rank, then we can identify the order, final rank. That is called, when we identify order, the order 1, rank 1 is attached to the manager. We can identify the manager is the relative most important job among these 9 jobs. The number 9 is attached to the peer. Therefore, we can identify the relatively least important job is the peer. Now we have jobs. Now we have the order based on the relative worth of the jobs. Based on these relative worth of the jobs, we can identify, we can establish, we can formulate base pay system that is internally fair, that ensure internal equity. That is the first technique of general ranking methods. The second techniques under the quantitative methods, paired comparison techniques. In here, when we compare with the previous one, generally they are considering 9 jobs at a time. But in here, it's very difficult because when we are considering about 9 jobs, they consider other 8 jobs at a time. In a particular time, it is very difficult to compare with other more options. But in here, fair comparison by the words, it is very clear. 2 pair of jobs are taken for evaluation at a time. It attempts to find the job which is more important than the other in terms of the relative contribution to the organizational success. Compare each jobs with every other jobs in terms of general importance to the achievements of primary goals of the organization. When we are considering our previous example, there is a manager and assistant manager. There are two jobs. At times, we can consider only these two jobs. Then we can consider in another time manager and the cashier, manager and the clerk. Likewise, at times we are considering only two jobs. It is very easy compared with our previous technique. Example 2 is based on the paired comparison technique. There are jobs: manager, assistant manager, accountant, office assistant, driver, clerk, computer technicians. In my tabling easiness, we use number. That number indicate the job. Number 1 indicate the job of manager. Number 2 indicate assistant manager. Number 3 indicate accountant, office assistant, driver. Likewise, paired comparison, manager compared with assistant manager. The most important is number 1. It means the job of manager is most important than the assistant manager. When you compare it in first row, the job of manager compared with each other jobs. The job of manager compared with assistant manager, which one is the most important? It is the job of manager. The job of manager indicated by the number 1. Then the second column, in a third column, the job of manager is compared with the job of accountant. When we compare accountant and manager, who is the most important job? It is manager. Again, number 1. The third column, fourth column, the job of manager is compared with office assistant. Again, the most important job is the job of manager. Then next column, the job of manager is compared with the job of driver. The job of manager is important than the driver. The next column is also same. The job of manager and the job of clerk is compared in the column. Then the job of manager is important than the job of clerk. The last column is manager. The job of manager is compared with the computer technicians. The job of manager is important. That's why we put number 1 under the last column. Then the assistant manager compared with accountant, office assistant, driver, clerk, and computer technicians. In the second row, when we compare with the assistant manager and accountant, who is the most important job? And it is accountant. That's why we put the number 3, because number 3 indicates that the job of accountant. Then the assistant manager and the office assistant, when we compare these two jobs, the office assistant manager is important than the office assistant. That's why we put number 2. When we compare with the assistant manager and the driver, the assistant manager is most important than the driver. That's why we put number 2. The next column is also same. Assistant manager compared with the clerk. Assistant manager is the most important. That's why we put number 2. Represent assistant manager is the most important. Last column, assistant manager compared with the computer technicians. Number 2, assistant manager is the most important. Then the next row, the job of accountant compared with office assistant. The accountant is most important than the office assistant. That's why we put the number 3, that is indicated that the job of accountant. When we compare accountant and the driver, again number 3, it's accountant is most important than the driver. Then accountant compared with the clerk, accountant is again important than the clerk. Then accountant compared with the computer technicians, number 3, accountant is most important than the computer technicians. That's why we put number 3. Then the office assistant compared with the driver, clerk, and the computer technicians. Number 4 represent office assistant, and driver represent number 5. Clerk represent number 6. Number 7 represent computer technicians. When we compare office assistant with the driver, driver is most important than the office assistant. When we compare office assistant with the clerk, clerk is most important than the office assistant. That's why we put number 6 and the last column, office assistant compared with the computer technicians. Computer technicians is important than the office assistant. Then the driver compared with clerk and computer technicians. Driver represent number 5, clerk represent number 6. Who is the most important? In here, clerk is most important than the driver. That's why we put number 6 in. And the last column, driver and the computer technicians. Computer technicians is the most important than the driver. That's why we put number 7. Then the clerk and the computer technicians, when we compare these two jobs, computer technicians is most important. That's why we put number 7, that is represent computer technicians. Then we need to allocate points for these ranks. The job of manager is represent number 1. When we compare this, the job of manager with all other 6 jobs, 6 times is most important than the other jobs. That's why we put 0.6. There are, in this chart, number 1 is in 6 times. That's why we put 0.6. When we considering about the assistant manager, that is represented by number 2 in our numeric chart. Number 2 is in 4 times. That's why we put now 4 points for that. The job of accountant, that is represented by the number 3. The number 3 is 5 times in our numeric chart. There are 5 times in the second column, and the 1 times in the second column, and the 4 times in the third column. Altogether 5 times. That's why we put the 0.5. Then office assistant is represented by number 4. There is no number 4 in our chart, numeric chart. Therefore, 0 points. Number 5 is driver. Number 5 is only 1 place in our numeric chart. That is in the 4th row here. That's why we put 0.1 for the driver. Then the 6th one is clerk. It is represented by number 6. There are 2 times in our chart, number 6. In 4th column, 4th row, and 5th row, there are 2 times. That's why under the clerk, number 6 is 2 points. Computer technicians, it is represented by number 7. There are 3 times in our numeric chart. That's why we put 0.3. Based on the points, we can give a rank for each and every job. The higher points are earned by the job of manager. Therefore, we can put rank number 1. The job of accountant is earn 5 points. Therefore, the next important job is the accountant, and the 4th point is earned by the job of assistant manager. Therefore, we can put the rank number 3. And the 7th job is computer technicians is earn 0.3. Therefore, we can rank as a number 4th important job as a computer technicians. Next one is clerk, and the next one is driver. Last one is office assistant. Likewise, we can identify the relative worth of job by paired comparison. That's called paired comparison technique. The final result is equal to the general ranking techniques, but the techniques, the way we use to identify the rank is different. I think the second technique is more convenient than the first technique, because at a time we only consider 2 jobs. But if we have more jobs in our organization, it is very difficult to use the general ranking techniques. But compared with that, the paired comparison is easy to use. Not very easy, but compared with the general ranking, it is easy to use paired comparison technique. Then the job grading and classification method. I think you are with me. They are in compensation management. Under the compensation management, there are 3 components: pay management and incentive management and the welfare management. Now we are in the pay management. Under the pay management, there is a pay management process. The first step is job evaluation. Then we discuss about the job evaluation. Under the job evaluation process, there are several steps. The first one, appoint job evaluation committee, considering job analysis information. Then the job evaluation methods. There are 2 types of methods. Under the 2 types of methods, there are 4 methods of job evaluation: qualitative and quantitative. Under the qualitative methods, there are 2 methods: job ranking and the job grading and classification methods. Now we are in job grading and classification method or classification method. පාඩම ටිකක් සංකීර්ණයි. මේක පටලව ගන්නේ නැතුව මතක තියාගත්තොත් විතරයි මේ concepts දැනුම ඔයාලට තියාගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ. මේ ටික තියාගන්න සිද්ධ මේ ටික ඉගෙන ගන්න සිද්ධ වෙනවා. මේ basic knowledge එක ගත්තේ නැත්නම් අපිට බැරි වෙයි ඉස්සරහදී එන contemporary issues වගේ දේවල් වලට deal කරන්න. ඒ නිසා මේ basic knowledge එක දෙන එක තමයි අද session එකේදී සිද්ධ වෙන්නේ. මේකට අදාළව exercise එකක් tutorial එකේදී කරයි කියලා මම බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. ඒකට අදාළ දැනුවත් කිරීම සිද්ධ කරන්නම්. අපිට මේ basic available techniques නැත්නම් available methods ගැන හොඳ understanding එකක් තිබුණ නැත්නම් අවබෝධයක් තිබුණේ නැත්නම් අපිට බැරි වෙනවා pay management process එකක් pay management කරන්න ගියාට පස්සේ අපිට මොන method එකද අපිට මොන technique එකද අපිට මොන pay management process එකද ideally match වෙන්නේ අපේ requirement එකට කියන එක තේරුම් ගන්න. මේ possible options ඔක්කොම මේ ලෙවල් එකේදී තේරුම් ගන්න ඕන වෙනවා. එහෙම නැතුව අපි ඉස්සරහට යන්න පුළුවන්. නමුත් එතකොට මේ conceptual knowledge එක ඔයාට හම්බ වෙන්නේ නැහැ කොහෙදවත්. ඒ නිසා මේ අද සෙෂන් එකේදී කතා කරන මේ බේසික් ටික ඔයාට ටිකක් වැදගත් වෙනවා. මම දන්නවා පාඩම ටිකක් දිග නිසා බෝරින් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. කොහොම වුණත් මේක මේ විදිහට කරගෙන යන්න සිද්ධ වෙනවා. අපි again we move to the job grading and classification method.